Okay, final video ever of 2022. Let's all take a moment to take a deep breath and congratulate ourselves for surviving another wild year. The official numbers are in, and what it's showing right now is that from 1 month, the peak of the market in February 2022, before all the rate hikes happened, compared to right now, average price-wise, we're down almost $250,000. I read a few articles that broke this down, and the math is the math. It's not incorrect. They're not sensationalizing it. It is a good headline on its own, but it did happen. And should you be concerned based on a property maybe you bought in the last 2 years, or a property that you already own and maybe you're thinking about selling in the future? This is basically going to be a year in review video, but we're going to go month by month for different asset classes and go over average price and median price to basically show you the beginning, the middle, and the end. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tom Story, and in my last video of the year, I just wanted to say to all of the viewers, thank you so much. This channel grew almost 5,000 subscribers in this 1 year alone. In 2022, I was able to put out about 65 videos for you, which I hope you found value in. We got almost 500,000 views on those 65 videos total. And the coolest part of all of this is I've got to meet a lot of you. Whether it's just bumping into you on the streets out in Toronto, seeing other real estate agents at conferences, and the group of people that have used our services to buy and sell real estate this year, it's just been so cool. All right, that's enough of the mushy stuff. Please hit that like button, hit subscribe if you find value in this content. I put together a bunch of charts for you in this video and a few graphs as well to really break down exactly what happened this year. So I'm going to show you by different asset class exactly what happened. So let's jump into it together. So what we're looking at here is condos specifically in the 416 area code of Toronto. We're going to go through every single month. Now, there's a few numbers I want to bring your attention to. So the peak of the condo market was actually March at $831,000 for average price. Now, median price that month was also the peak for median price was $750,000. That month also had the most amount of sales. It was the only month we saw this year where there was over 2,000 condo sales. For the lowest sale price numbers, we're going to have to go to November at $734,000. So that was a drop from $831,000. So that's a $100,000 drop on average sale price, right? Which kind of makes sense based on the rates going up. And then if you look over here at median price, the median price bottom of the market was $635,000. Now the December numbers at the bottom, I pulled until December the 28th, okay? But still, you look at how many sales happened, by far the lowest month. And we were treading along here pretty good. And then it went under 1,000 for the first time in July, jumped up just over in August, and then was under 1,000 every single month. What's kind of interesting with condos, if we looked at the beginning of the year, average price 760, and where we ended at 750, it's kind of like the same, but average price doesn't tell the whole story. If you look at median price to begin the year at 700, we ended at 635. I think that's a better representation of what's actually happening, taking out the outliers. Now let's move to semi-detached properties. For semi-detached, March was also the peak of the market. It actually wasn't February. Prices went up again in March. So the highest we saw for average price was just over 1.5 million, where the median price was just over 1.4 million, with 331 properties selling in Toronto proper. If we go down to the bottom of the year, right now in December, 1.1 million average price and just over $1,050,000 for median price. So for some of the semi-detached properties, they were down maybe $400,000 from the peak of the market. That only matters if you bought in February, but it is something you need to know. And finally, we're going to jump to detached properties. So what we're looking at here is basically just a wild price difference, what happened in detached. So the peak of the detached market was in February, just over $2 million with a median price of just under $1.7 million. That was the peak for both of those. The peak for number of sales was March, not February, but February was the peak for pricing. Running off December, about 1.57 with a median price of 1,243 with 242 sales. So we saw detached properties in the city of Toronto drop up to $500,000. There's something I want to say at this point as we're looking through these numbers where semis were down $400,000 from the peak and detached was down $500,000. We're comparing it to 1 month with wildly different interest rates, right? So I've said this so many times on this channel. I'm not going to repeat myself on a rant here, But price doesn't tell the whole story. It's what you're paying on a monthly basis. And with rates going up, your monthly payment goes up even if the price comes down. Although you're going to save massive amounts of money on land transfer tax and your down payment. But the numbers are the numbers, and I need to share them with you. I want to show you the next graph here, which is basically like a year in review for the GTA. Now, GTA is everything, right? It's the 6 boroughs, it's the city of Toronto, plus everything else. Now, if you look down here, this is showing you average sale price, right? And you see where it sticks up here over $2 million. Well, that's King City. If we go to C12, that is Bridle Path, where your average sale price is over $3 million. CO4 is Lawrence Park, Lytton Park, really nice areas. CO9 is Rosedale. So you can see why those properties jump up here. What's kind of interesting to me is if you look at the GTA, detached represent about 44% of all sales. Condos, about 30%. Condo townhouses, 8%. Attached row and townhouse, meaning freehold for that, about 9%, and semi-attached, only 9% as well. And then you look at where properties were actually selling. So the biggest threshold was 1 million to 1.249, the most amount of properties sold in that range compared to anything else, followed by 1.2 to 1.5 million dollars. When we're looking at detached properties representing 44% of all sales. And then if you look at the 6 to 699 and the 7 to 799 price point right here, that's represented in these condo sales, which is making up about 30% of the market. Let's go one more graph here and show you just the city of Toronto. So Toronto proper. Now, Toronto proper is what I showed you prices in the previous 3 graphs before this. This is where it gets really interesting to me. Condos represented 53% of all sales in Toronto proper. Detached were 30%. You got semi-attached at 9%. Townhouses at 3% there. You got condo towns at 7%. And if you add up the condo towns plus the condo apartment, condo ownership made up 60% of all properties sold in Toronto, which is pretty wild. If you look down here as well, you'll see that C12 again and CO9, right? That's Rosedale and that is the Bridle Path. And then we're looking at, well, where did most of the sales actually happen? For Toronto, it was that 6 to 699. Most sales in the city, the highest percentage of sales happened under $700,000, 6 to 700,000. Primarily, those were condo properties. The second highest was that million to 1.249. That represented a lot of semi and detached properties. And actually, somewhat surprisingly, other than the 7 to 799, which is a lot of condos as well, is that over $2 million price point represented a good chunk of sales. Why that would matter is because when over $2 million is actually representing a good chunk of the sales happening in both the GTA and the city of Toronto, it means that as sale volume falls and there's less sales in that category, that's going to impact the average price even more. So that's why I do think that median price and benchmark price probably tells a much better story than average price. But average price makes for the best possible news headlines, especially scary ones. If you have any questions about anything I talked about in today's video, please let me know. Thanks again so much for watching this channel. I hope everybody has a great holiday season, spent some time with friends and family. Happy New Year, and remember, home is where your story begins. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. You can learn more about the Story Team at storyteam.ca. We also have a weekly podcast called The Tom Story Show, with new episodes each Sunday. If you'd like to book a call directly with Tom, you can do that via the first link in the description.